Hi, and welcome to Still Singaporean, a podcast brought to you by Singapore Global Network and the students at NUS Overseas Colleges program. I'm Cheryl, and I'm part of the Singapore Global Network based here in New York City. At SGN, we connect Singaporeans and friends of Singapore from all over the world. And this podcast is a way for us to explore what it is to be Singaporean, even when we are far away from home. In this series, you'll hear from inspiring individuals building their careers and lives abroad, how they got here, what they learned, and the little bits of Singapore that they carry along with them. Today's episode is hosted by two of the NUS students currently based here in New York City. Over to them.
Thank you so much, Cheryl, and welcome to this episode of Still Singaporean. I'm Joanne, this is Jolene, and together with us today, we have a very special guest with a very cool job. She is a costume and scenic designer for theatre, film, dance, and opera. Born and raised in Singapore, she is currently based in New York City. She first discovered theatrical design when competing in the creative thinking competition Odyssey of the Mind. For the Singaporeans, I think you guys have heard of that also. So that was back in Sec 3, and she has never looked back since. Welcome, Johanna Pan.
Hi.
Yeah, Johanna, it's so lovely to have you here with us today. So your job is very unique. So for those who is not very familiar with this creative space, why don't you start by briefly describing a day in your working life?
A day in my working life is a little tricky because I do something different every single day. Generally, I spend my time reading scripts, drawing shows, and then after that I go into the garment district here in New York City and I swatch for fabric. So you're looking at different kinds of fabric in every store. You cut a little piece of it, you bring it back, and you kind of lay all of it out and try to plan out what fabrics you're going to use for your costume. And then also I spend a lot of time talking to vendors, so like people who make clothes for me. It could be tailors, drapers, people who bead, people who do pleating, people who do embroidery, people who make hats. And I'm always having all of these conversations with them, talking to them about what I want to make and how we're going to do it. And then after we do a fitting with the actors, so we bring them in, we try on, sometimes we do a mock-up or sometimes we go straight to fabric, kind of depends on the situation. We do a first fitting, we do a second fitting, we make adjustments and we fit it all. And then after that, we have this section of our job called tech, where every day I go to the theatre and we load everything in and we run the show and we do different parts of the show with all the different technical elements. And so we add costumes, set, lighting, sound, and we're watching the actors and we combine all these elements together, and then we have previews. So we don't really do that as much in Singapore, I think, where you're basically kind of still changing and testing the show every night. So we rehearse in the afternoon and we do a show at night, and this sometimes on Broadway can go on for like 2-3 weeks, maybe even a month. And then after that, we open the show, and at that point the show is considered locked. So it's frozen, you don't change the show anymore, and then it's ready for whoever to come and see it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh,
This, I was gonna say, because like I dance myself, and then usually we don't call it a tech week. For us, it's just like a
dance is always like 30 minutes, 2 hours. It's so fast. It's so much faster than dance.
And at max, a dance production would be 2 days of rehearsals in that sense, but 2 weeks, that is super intense.
2 weeks of tech and then like 4 weeks of previews.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's very different because in Singapore a show will run for 1 week or 2 weeks, right? Maybe even 3. That's about it.
Wow.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I really love your outfit. So just curious, do you design it yourself?
Yes, I designed the pants are from Evelyn. Yeah.
Wow, lovely.
Yeah.
That's really like from drawing and everything.
Yeah.
Actually, then for context, when did you start going into this? Be it being a seamstress in a sense, costume designing, drawing.
Yeah. I took art at O levels. I mean, I have a very I think a very different school path even than most people. I took O-level music, O-level art, and A-level theatre.
Wow.
So I was always very clearly kind of like leaning towards the arts.
Yeah.
I started sewing. I probably started sewing, I think, when I was like 13 or 14. I remember my mom sent me for a class with someone from church, and we made a bag together, and she had an embroidery machine, so the machine did all the embroidery for us. And then even after that, when I was doing Odyssey of the Mind, you have to make all of your own sets and costumes. And so my grandmother's a seamstress. She taught me how to sew, and she taught me how to pattern. And then I had to make the clothes. We all made the clothes together, but I did a lot of the sewing for that Odyssey of the Mind project. And then in JC, I continued doing theatre and costumes. I did theatre at the A-levels, and then I was really like doing a lot of embroidery then. So like I was learning how to do beading, embroidery, like things like that. And then also designing shows at ACJC. So yeah.
We're just curious, how many people take theatre for A-levels?
I don't know.
I've never heard of it, actually.
It used to be, I think, like VJ, RJ, TJ, and ACJC. And I think now there's only VJ and ACJC or VJ, ACJC. RJ doesn't do it anymore either. And I think our class was about 20-something people.
Oh, yeah, that's a very small
there were like 4 groups of 5.
cohort.
There's about 20 of us.
It's
Yeah.
quite small.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But my classes have always been very small. Even in college, I think we started with 22 people and we graduated with 12 because I was in a cut program. So they will cut people if they weren't considered good enough. And then in grad school, there were only 6 of us doing costumes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Intense.
Oh.
Then I guess also a follow-up question. So since you know that you have such passions, especially artistically more inclined, when did you decide that I want to make it a career?
Oh, there was a museum exhibition in Singapore on the Christian Lacroix costumes. So Christian Lacroix was a costume and fashion designer, both, right? Most people know him as a fashion designer. But there was an exhibition of his costumes in Singapore that was kind of, I think it was co-produced by Alliance Francaise and at National Museum, or was it? Yeah, I think it was National Museum. And I think that was kind of the point where I realized, oh, you can be a costume designer. Like this is actually like a real thing that people can do. And then simultaneously, when I was doing my A-levels in costume design, there was a book that had like all of these interviews by Broadway costume designers. And you have to do this thing at your A-levels where you have to have a practitioner that you kind of model your work after.
Right.
And so I was looking for a practitioner and I found this like amazing book of, and I've actually now since bought the book for myself. And I think it's kind of amazing that we had it in the Singapore Library, you know, like when we expect the Singapore Library to have a book about Broadway costume designers.
Do you want to tell them what the book is?
I can't remember what the name of the book anymore is.
Okay, no worries.
Maybe from Patience,
we can insert a caption here.
But there's a Broadway costume designer. Her name is Theone V. Aldrich, and she even here she's like historically renowned. She's very famous, and she did the original clothes for La Cage aux Folles, which then I actually ended up working on with Ivan at Wild Rice later when they did it the first time around at Esplanade. And so she was just, you know, like even like describing things, and it was just so cool to see that there were actually people who did this for a living. And so then I started looking into programs. The program in Singapore, unfortunately, at NUS is very theoretical, right? Like it's not a very practical program, I should say. And so I was then looking for programs that like really focus on costume design and doing design in the tech side of stuff. And Singapore doesn't have a program for that, unfortunately. So I looked into several different places. I looked in Hong Kong, Academy of Performing Arts. I looked into New Zealand because my aunt lives there. And then I looked into programs here as well. But primarily I was following like where the scholarships were, and there are scholarships here for private institutions, and so that's why I ended up coming here.
Yeah, so you know, like Singaporeans, right? We all have that traditional mindset. Like our parents want us to like, you know, being like doctor, lawyers, you know. So I mean, that's just a traditional mindset, right? So I'm just curious, like you know, you took this a bit of more of an unconventional route. So what do you think of like what are some of the reactions of like, your family, friends? Were they like supportive of your path? Like, yeah.
I think my parents were very grateful that I got into school, like I got into university somewhere. I have to be honest, I actually don't know if I've ever told my parents this, so if you're watching this, I'm sorry. But I deliberately bombed my NUS and NTU applications.
I respect that.
Passion.
That's brave of you.
I definitely, I know I bombed my Wikimwe communications application, and I think I got into NUS FASS. And I just like, I always knew that like that wasn't where I wanted to go. And actually, truthfully, I think I did tell you this earlier, but I had actually gotten an MOE scholarship for theatre as well. And I turned that down, something I don't know if my mom will ever forgive me for. I turned that scholarship down. So I could have gone to NUS for free, basically, but I chose not to. But I think I was very grateful because I was offered a full tuition scholarship here in the US. And then on top of that, I also got the National Arts Council bursary at that point. It doesn't exist anymore. Now they only have the scholarship. But I got the NEC bursary to come here as well. So I was very fortunate in that sense that I was able to come here with like all of my expenses paid for. And that was actually, so I guess for my parents, they were like quite happy about that. So I think they were like not so fussed that I was coming here to study theatre, right? Because they were like, oh, she has a full she has a full tuition. And my parents did always tell me when I was growing up, they were like, if you want to study overseas, you have to get a full tuition scholarship. There's no other way for me. They were like, we can't afford it. So if this is what you want to do, you have to go and get it. And so I think because of that, I was very clear that like that was what I was going to aim for. And because I was able to achieve that, my parents were like, okay, you go and study.
Right.
It's so impressive, especially at quite a young age. I think so many people, even you can be 50, 60 and you're still lost in what you're doing. But to identify like a passion so early on, and I'm sure your parents are proud of you.
Oh, I think my mom definitely is. I don't know. My dad, sometimes I feel like my dad doesn't know what I do for a living. But yeah, even in grad school, I was able to get a full tuition scholarship as well as other additional funding. So I've always been very blessed, I think, in that sense that like I've never really had to pay for school.
I guess since we're on the topic of like passions also, like turning your passion into a work, that is something that I personally also struggle with, like thinking about it. Do I want to pursue dance full time or I think there will be a fine line where you just end up kind of hating your work. If it consumes your entire life, your passion is your job, then how do you draw that line?
Oh, that's hard. I feel like if you're an artist, you will never be able to draw that line because everything is personal. There's everything is personal because if your art's your life, like everything is about your point of view and what you're trying to say and what you're trying to do. And I think art sometimes feels like it feels very like fancy, right? But actually, like the end of the day, like what makes an artist, I think, is someone who has a point of view on something and wants to say something about that. And art, like whatever medium they choose, is just like the medium that they're using to say that, right? So I think that everything is always going to be personal because it has to be. If it's not personal, you're not making art.
Then in that case, do you have like hobbies outside of your initial passion or like?
Yes, but they're also all related. So I spin yarn and I weave fabric and I embroider and I bead, I knit, I crochet, I machine knit. I do ceramics.
Many talents.
Ceramics, printmaking. But at the end of the day, it all comes back to, like what do you want to say about the world?
For sure. Yeah, so breaking into this creative space, right, especially coming from Singapore, it can be daunting for some. So how do you land your first opportunity in the US?
I didn't get my first opportunity in the US. I applied for at Juilliard Drama School has an apprenticeship, and they have 4 places for people to become assistants in the program. And I applied for it and I didn't get it. But I think I was like number 5 and number 6. So there were 2 of us. And someone that I still work with today, Rory, he called the costume director at Juilliard and he asked him for recommendations for interns. So he gave me my name and a name of my other friend. And the 2 of us ended up being interns on the out-of-town tryout for Beautiful, the Carole King musical. So through that opportunity, I actually met Alejo Vietti, who's an amazing costume designer, and Leon, who then took me on as an assistant. So from that opportunity came other opportunities. And I think to me, a lot of my work today comes from not getting that job. And I just remember like picking up the phone that day, and I when I got the call, it was actually my first day on the job at a different job that summer, and I had to like, right before I was about to walk in, I got the call and I was crying in the corner, and then I had to walk in and be like, oh, hi, like meeting people. And I remember it felt so devastating because I felt like, like I'm never gonna make it, right? Like I didn't get this job. And then one door closes, another door opens, and it really just like it just happens in a way that you can't explain.
And I guess since you have been in the US for how long now?
I've been here since 2009.
Okay.
I've been working since 2013.
Wow. Yeah. So it's been a while since you've been in the creative space in the US, and I guess you have had exposure back in Singapore as well.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
What do you think are some of the differences, similarities, anything you appreciate about the creative scene in both?
Yeah, I think that there's something really great about the collaborativeness in Singapore that like every department, or at least in the shows that I've worked on, it feels like there's a very open collaboration in terms of people talking to each other about like, oh, like maybe we can try this, maybe we can try that. I do think that sometimes, I think, actually the funny thing, the thing that I wish about Singapore theatre is the thing that we were talking about earlier, is that shows only run for so long, which means that they don't really have time to like get traction, and they don't really have time to develop a new work with previews, right? Like, so for example, like Checkpoint just did Secondary the musical, and they're very fortunate it's coming back again. I'm very excited for them that they're able to bring it back again. But I remember the first time it happened, I wanted to go see it, and it was sold out, and I asked Claire, I was like, hey, how come you're not extending the show? Like, it's doing so well. You're selling so many tickets. And she was like, Johanna, like, it costs so much money to put up the show. And then by the time, like these tickets start to sell out, the show has already opened. The window for us to extend the show is gone already. So they just like don't have enough time to like build up like a runway, because the people only really start buying the tickets when people start talking about it, which is like after the show has already started showing. So then they don't really have the chance to have that momentum to like really keep going and like explore and like and fine tune and finesse their work, which is actually a really important part of the process. That basically like my preview time is like, in the end, I'm like, by the time I'm done with previews here, that show has opened, tacked and closed. If you can imagine, it's like very, very different that way.
Right.
So I really do wish they could have more time and space to be able to like really figure out and finesse their work in Singapore.
Right. So as someone who, you experience both local and global creative landscape, what are your hopes for how the creative scene in Singapore might continue to evolve in the years to come?
I wish people would start talking about how much money they get paid.
Oh my gosh, it's a taboo topic.
I know, it's such a taboo topic in Singapore, right? Yeah, people don't like to talk about how much money they're getting paid. Do you know in the US it's illegal to tell someone that they cannot talk about how much money they're making?
It's so interesting.
Oh, wow. Wait, I did not know
it's
about
actually,
that.
it's part of the national labor regulations. For an employer to tell the employee to say that they can't talk about how much they make is actually illegal. Because actually talking about how much money you make is actually the way people are able to negotiate and kind of collectively figure out like how they can negotiate for better wages.
Right.
But in Singapore, if you're making more money than her, and you find out, you're gonna blame her. Right. You're not going to actually blame your boss or like take it to your boss. Actually, your boss should be paying you equal amounts of money if you're both like of equal stature, right? Equal experience. And so it's a way of like, I really do wish Singapore I don't know why it's always so taboo. And it's funny because Singapore is a collectivist society, right? Because it is a collectivist society in that like it is not, it is socialist light, it's not fully capitalist, but somehow we retain this very like capitalistic behavior of like we cannot talk about how much money we make.
That's a very interesting point, and especially for like a creative scene.
I
think that's even harder to like put a value to the artwork.
Singaporeans also like to undercut each other. That's
oh my gosh.
There's a whole set of problems that we shall not.
So I think both of those things are actually really like, it sounds so funny to be talking about this, but I think that like if creative people are able to negotiate properly for themselves and be able to have open conversations about how much we're making, we can actually better protect ourselves so that then we can do our jobs better. You know what I mean? Because if you're not worrying about the money anymore, then you can actually focus on the art.
Right.
And I think that if you are not able to do that, it's actually really difficult.
And I guess like ultimately you're still paying your paychecks. You have to buy the BTO. Oh, speaking of which, BTO,
yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll back soon.
So you've been living in the US for a while also, but is there any part of yourself that you feel like is distinctly Singaporean that you can't really get rid of? It follows you everywhere.
Actually, I would say I can get rid of it, but
you'd rather not.
So I used to date someone who was not Singaporean, an American person here in the US, and my accent, right, is like something that is so Singaporean, and I definitely code switch, and I'm fully aware of it, right, and I know when I code switch, and I can hear it happening, and somehow I still can't really control, actually, so maybe that's the part that I can't control, when I code switch and when I don't. My husband now is Singaporean, and I tell you, it's such a relief to be able to go home and speak in Singlish, and to like, I never realized like how much that actually affected my mind space, and like how much it felt like you are yourself when you can speak in a way that is who you
For
are.
sure. Yeah.
It was actually something that like kind of really surprised me, and it has been really comforting actually.
That is super relatable
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like I've been working here for half a year now, but for my job I do like hosting events and everything, emceeing, and I feel like sometimes I'll purposely tell myself before the event, speak in Singlish or like just keep your accent, don't have to code switch. But then once I go on stage, it kind of
It just
switches again.
happens, yeah.
And sometimes I'll feel like really not say
Like you're selling out,
disappointed,
right?
but why am I doing this?
Right.
Yeah.
And then also, I think it's interesting because like when I talk to Americans here, they're also like, "Oh, your accent's so lovely," you know. Like when they hear my
Yes.
Singaporean
Yeah,
accent, they're
yeah.
like, you know,
It's
and
very
it's like, I
unique.
wish I could just hold on to it. I really do.
Yeah.
Like I like. Sometimes it just feels like you're like grasping at straws, you know, like you like try to hold on to your accent and it just like goes away and you're like, oh.
Right. Yeah. I think also like I understand that for the global people like they tend to not really understand what we are talking because Singaporeans we tend to speak very fast.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true. I definitely
Right.
speed up.
Yeah, I mean I have people telling me that like they don't understand a single word although I was speaking English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
it's frustrating, right?
yeah, it is for sure. Yeah, so yes, to wrap it up, let's play a round of quick fire. So we are gonna ask you like a series of questions. So just whatever that comes off to your mind, answer it. Yeah. Okay, so first question. What's your most used Singaporean slang?
Aya.
It came out very naturally.
Right?
Lovely.
Yeah.
Okay.
And next, what's your favorite activity to do when you're in Singapore? Yeah.
Go get bubble tea.
Bubble tea?
Which brand?
Yes.
Playmate, always and
Oh,
forever.
I love Playmate.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the bubble's so good.
Yeah.
Next question.
Yeah.
Okay. Favorite hawker dish?
Sungai Road laksa.
Wow.
Oh.
Got a specific place.
Or
Wow.
Swee Chun dim sum.
Oh my gosh, I love.
Oh,
The sweet potato
one.
one.
Oh, yes. yes. I love
Okay,
it.
We haven't had dinner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, right.
And the last one would be favorite mall in Singapore.
Next.
Next.
Wow.
Do you live near there?
Yeah. I live in Serangoon.
Right.
So it's actually also because that mall was new when I was going to secondary school. So like it kind of came up. So that was like a place that we would go and hang out. Also, like now for me it's like on the way home. And also there's a Playmate.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Everything together.
Right.
Yeah. And there's a Swee Chun actually also in the basement.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Oh,
Okay.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
When we go back.
Right. Okay, so finally, it's SG60 this year. So any message you would like to share with your Singaporeans, whether it's at home or overseas, yeah, any message you'd like to
Singaporeans
share.
are creative, okay?
Yeah.
I feel like there's like this belief that Singaporeans cannot be creative or that like Singaporean creatives are very rare. And actually, there's quite a lot of us. If you know where to look, maybe we're just not as loud or not as like globally exciting, but we actually do exist in all pockets of space all over the world. And I think that Singaporeans can be a very creative bunch, and you just have to know who they are.
Yes. Yeah, that's a
Completely
very
agree.
good one. Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you, Johanna, for sharing a bit of your story. And also, as someone with a deep passion for dance, it is super inspiring to talk to you. I had a chat
Yeah.
with her like before this also. So, yeah, and to everyone tuning in, don't forget to follow Still Singaporean for more stories of resilience, identity, and belonging across the globe. Till next time, stay grounded, stay curious, and always stay a bit Singaporean.